The night was cold enough to crack glass. Frost traced white veins across the skyscrapers of downtown, and Michael Grant, CEO of Grant Corp., stepped out of the boardroom with his daughter asleep against his shoulder. 8-year-old Ella had lasted through hours of adult speeches and contracts, her head tucked into the crook of his neck. But even she had her limits. The chauffeured car waited at the curb, doors already open, heater humming. Michael slid into the back seat, Ella's hair spilling across his suit jacket. They rode in silence until, 2 blocks from home, Ella stirred. "Daddy," she mumbled, eyes still heavy. "Can we walk the last block? I don't want to go straight in." Michael hesitated. He was tired, the kind of tired that felt bone deep. But he looked at her, cheeks pink, expression hopeful, and nodded. "1 block," he said. "Then bed." The driver pulled over. Michael lifted her into his arms, boots crunching on the salted sidewalk, before setting her down. The night air cut sharp through their lungs. It happened fast. Ella's hand tugged his sleeve, hard. "Daddy." He followed her gaze. On the corner, hunched against a building, sat a young woman. Clothes thin, hair tangled, arms wrapped tight around a bundle of cloth. The bundle moved, whimpered, a baby's cry so faint it could have been the wind. "Daddy, her baby is freezing." Ella's voice cracked. Michael's body locked. Instinct split him in two. The CEO in him calculated headlines, risks, liabilities. The father in him saw only his daughter's eyes, pleading, fierce, filled with a kind of mercy he couldn't ignore. He approached carefully, voice low. "Ma'am, are you all right?" The woman looked up. Her face was pale, lips cracked, eyes glassy with exhaustion. "Please, he's sick," she whispered. "I tried the shelter. They're full. I didn't know where else to go." Michael pulled off his coat and draped it over them. The baby shifted, letting out another thin cry. Michael touched his forehead and felt the heat. Too much heat. "Fever," Ella gasped. "Daddy, do something." Michael's pulse thundered. He could walk away, pretend this never happened. But Ella's small hand gripped his, insistent. Begging, "Come with us," he said finally. "Just for tonight." The woman blinked at him, stunned. "You don't even know me." Michael forced a smile he didn't feel. "My daughter does." They walked together, Michael carrying the baby now, its weight heavy and fragile in his arms. Every step echoed with the knowledge that this decision could cost him everything. His company, his reputation, his control. But he couldn't stop at the building door. He whispered to himself, "Temporary. Just one night." Behind them, hidden in the shadows, a camera lens clicked. A stranger's hand steadied on the shutter, capturing the moment like evidence. Michael didn't hear it. He only felt Ella's hand squeeze his as the door shut behind them, sealing a choice that would soon turn his world upside down. The first thing Kara noticed was silence. Not the cold, hollow kind she'd grown used to, but a warm silence that carried the faint hum of heating vents and the steady tick of a wall clock. She blinked awake on a sofa softer than anything she had ever slept on. Marble floors stretched across the room, polished enough to mirror the chandelier above. Her baby wasn't in her arms. Panic flared. She sat up fast. Then she saw him. Ella had dragged a crib from her own room, tucked her stuffed animals around the baby, and was perched beside it, softly singing a tune off key but filled with tenderness. "He's safe," Ella whispered when she saw Kara's alarm. "I promised." Kara swallowed hard, relief washing through her like a flood. She hadn't slept in weeks without waking at every sound. A shower waited in the corner bathroom, steam rising, towels folded neatly. For a moment, she wanted to refuse. Pride told her to keep her guard up, but the smell of soap and the ache of grime on her skin broke her hesitation. She whispered, "Thank you," and stepped into the water like someone stepping back into humanity. Michael lingered at the doorway, watching all of it. His daughter laughing with a stranger's baby, Kara finally exhaling under the hiss of water. Inside him, 2 forces wrestled. The man who wanted to help. The CEO who knew every act could be turned into a weapon against him. By morning, the office was already buzzing. His assistant, Marla, intercepted him at the elevator, tablet in hand, voice sharp. "People are talking. Someone saw her last night. Photos of a woman and a baby going into your building. Already in circulation." Michael stiffened. "Anonymous." Marla nodded. "But it won't stay that way. The board is circling. They think you've lost perspective." He kept his expression calm. But inside, fear pressed tight against his ribs. That evening, Kara sat across from him in the penthouse kitchen, cradling a mug of tea Ella insisted she have. Her voice was quiet but steady. I need to tell you something. I used to work for Rhythmos, Pharma Division. It was tied to Grant Corp. When I found out about certain practices, I tried to speak up. No one listened. So I left. Michael froze. Rhythmos had been one of his early acquisitions. What practices? Her eyes burned with tired rage. Trials, data manipulation, pricing schemes, families hurt. I tried to blow the whistle. They buried it. It clicked. Her ending up outside his building wasn't chance. Someone had pushed her there, maybe hoping to break him with her story. Before he could press further, Marla's voice echoed from the living room. Michael, you'd better see this. The news ticker ran across the television. A breaking alert. His own photo filled the screen beside Kara holding her baby. The headline scrolled in bold. CEO Michael Grant accused of secret mistress and love child. The air left the room. Kara's face went pale. Ella clutched the crib rail, confused at Michael's world tilted on its axis. His kindness was no longer a secret. It was now the story meant to ruin him. The boardroom smelled of polished wood and old power. Michael sat at the long table, 12 pairs of eyes fixed on him with the weight of investors who could topple empires. He straightened his tie, jaw tight, as the chairman cleared his throat. Mr. Grant, your personal choices are raising questions. Investor confidence is fragile. You understand what's at stake. The words were sharp but cold, practiced like a knife drawn too many times. Michael's pulse thudded in his ears. Kellen, the CFO, leaned back in his chair, lips curled in a thin smile. He didn't need to speak loudly. His glances, his measured sighs, stoked the suspicion already circling the room. This is manufactured, Michael said evenly. A homeless woman needed help. That's all. The chairman slid a folder across the table. Michael opened it, and his stomach dropped. Photos. Kara stepping into his building. Kara holding her baby. Dates and times neatly stamped. A linked timeline stretched across the page, dotted with insinuations. Mistress. Love child. Secret scandal. Michael clenched the folder shut. This is a setup. A few board members exchanged looks, already calculating risk. To them, perception was profit, and profit was God. Do you deny this child could be yours? One of them asked, voice clipped up. Michael's jaw locked. Yes, categorically. But Kellen's smile widened, feeding the room's doubt like gasoline on flame. By the time the meeting ended, Michael knew the knives were out. His position was no longer guaranteed. It was hanging by threads of rumor and loyalty that wouldn't last. Back at the penthouse, the television blared headlines. Kara sat frozen, eyes fixed on the screen, shame burning across her face. Before she could reach for the remote, Ella scrambled in front of her, blocking her view. Don't look, Ella said firmly. Her small hands gathered paper from the craft box, folding clumsy hearts and cranes. She hung them on strings above the crib, one by one, whispering to the baby, see? You're safe now. No one can get you here. Kara's eyes filled, tears she fought to hold back. She shouldn't have to do this, she murmured. Michael crouched beside her. None of this is your fault. But Kara shook her head, voice low. It's not just about me. I still have evidence. Files. Proof of what they've done. That's why they'll never stop. Michael stilled. You're saying this is about corporate fraud, not scandal? Kara nodded, clutching her bag like a lifeline. I kept everything. A flash drive. I thought if the truth ever came out, I'd be safe. Now I see. They'll bury us before they let that happen. Michael pressed her shoulder, forcing steadiness into his voice. Then we'll protect it. I'll find who's leaking from inside my walls. That night, as the city hummed outside the glass windows, Kara checked her bag before bed. Her breath caught. The flash drive was gone. She turned wide, panicked eyes toward Michael's closed study door. Michael sat at his desk, fingers pressed to his temples, staring at the empty spot on the shelf where Kara's flash drive should have been. His mind turned sharp, dark. If Kara had invented this whole thing, if she'd staged herself as a victim just to entangle him, then everything, from her story to the baby's fever, was part of a setup. He looked at her across the room. She rocked Liam gently, humming low, eyes red from lack of sleep. She noticed his stare, bristled. You think I did this, she whispered. I think, Michael said slowly. The only person who knew where that drive was you. The accusation landed like glass shattering. Her jaw trembled, but she held his gaze. I didn't lose it. Someone took it. Someone has been watching us since the street. Don't you see? Before Michael could reply, a voice cut sharp through the tension. Stop it. Ella stood in the doorway, fists balled, face flushed with fury. She's not lying. You're being mean, Daddy. Her voice cracked, and the room froze. Kara closed her eyes, swallowing the sting of being defended by a child. Michael's chest tightened. Kara clutched the baby tighter. Believe what you want, she said, her voice breaking, but I won't let your suspicion put Ella in danger. Hours later, unable to quiet his doubt, Michael pulled up the penthouse security feeds. He scrubbed through hours of footage until, there, a figure in uniform, the maid, moving fast, slipping into Kara's room while she was in the shower. The flash of her hand reaching into the bag. The unmistakable glint of a small device disappearing into her pocket that Michael's blood chilled. He summoned his head of security, Danvers, who swore their team was airtight. Michael shoved the footage across the desk. Your airtight system just got bought, he snapped. Danvers paled, stammering. I'll find out who. Find out. Michael cut in, his voice cold steel. Or were you the one holding the door open? Danvers didn't answer. That silence told Michael everything. That night, Kara stood at the window, clutching her coat. I should leave, she said softly. The longer I'm here, the more I endanger you both. They're after me, not you. Michael started to argue, but Ella ran across the room, wrapping her arms around Kara's waist. Her voice was small but certain. Stay? We're safe when you're here. Kara's hands shook as she stroked Ella's hair. She wanted to believe it. Later, alone in his study, Michael scrolled through his company email server, looking for patterns. That's when a new message popped up. No subject line, no sender, just one encrypted line of text, pulsing on the screen like a heartbeat. Hand over the woman. Or everything falls. Michael stared at it, the weight of the ultimatum pressing against his chest. The choice was no longer about image or scandal. It was survival. Liam's cries had thinned to faint whimpers. Kara rocked him endlessly, forehead pressed to his damp hair, but the heat radiating from his skin told the truth. His fever was climbing. Michael hovered in the doorway, helplessness clawing at his chest. For once, there wasn't a deal to negotiate or a boardroom to control. There was only a baby slipping toward silence. The doctor arrived quietly, summoned through one of Michael's few trusted contacts. He laid his stethoscope on the infant's chest, listened, and frowned. He needs immediate treatment. Medication. Strong doses. He hesitated before naming the drug. Michael already knew it. It was one of Grant Corp's own, an insulin-adjacent compound his company had cornered the market on. The irony punched him in the gut. His empire had set the price so high families couldn't afford it. Now one of those families was under his roof. His roof, his responsibility. I'll get it, Michael said quickly. Insurance? The doctor asked. Michael shook his head. No paper trail. That night he moved quietly through his contacts, cashing in favors, calling in markers. By morning, he slipped into a private clinic under a baseball cap and scarf, Liam's prescription folded in his pocket. The pharmacist hesitated at first, then recognized him. Michael leaned close, voice sharp. You never saw me. But he had been seen. Cameras were everywhere, and by the time he returned to the penthouse with the medication, his phone was buzzing with notifications. Breaking news. CEO buys miracle drugs for secret baby. The photos showed him at the counter. Head bent, prescription in hand. Ella's face crumpled when she overheard whispers at school the next day. Kids giggled, repeating lines their parents had seen online. Your new brother's fake. Your dad's got a secret family. Ella fought back tears, clutching her backpack like a shield. When Michael found her that evening, she collapsed into his arms, muffling sobs into his shirt. Kara stood frozen, shame pulling at every line of her body. This is too much, she whispered. I can't stay. I won't drag her through this. She began gathering her things, hands shaking, movements frantic. Michael stepped forward, blocking the door. His voice was low but fierce. You're not leaving. Not like this. We fix this together. Her eyes brimmed with tears. How? Look what they're doing to you. Then let them try, he said. But you don't fight alone anymore. The medication worked slowly. Liam's fever began to ease, his cries strengthening again. Kara sat by his side, hope flickering for the first time in days. Ella slept curled at the crib, her paper cranes dangling overhead, whispering safety in folded wings. But Michael's phone chimed late that night. An anonymous leak. Documents. Spreadsheets with his signature at the bottom. Price adjustments. Profit margins. Proof that he had personally authorized the very drug hikes now threatening Liam's life. The board hadn't just set him up with scandal. They were cutting deeper, turning his own pen into the knife. The storm broke before sunrise. News anchors replayed Michael's trip to the clinic on every channel, calling it hypocrisy, scandal, proof of double lives. Outside Grant Corp's headquarters, protesters gathered with cardboard signs. Greed kills families. Blood on your bonus. Their voices rose like a chant that shook the marble steps. Michael watched from his office window. Shoulders squared but stomach knotted. Security advised him to use the underground garage. He shook his head. Hiding would only make it worse. Behind him, Kara stood pale and restless, rocking Liam. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "Cut ties now. Say it was all me. Save yourself before they destroy you." Michael turned, his expression tired but resolved. "If I do that, then Ella grows up knowing her father abandoned the truth to protect his chair at the table. I can't let her carry that." Kara's eyes glistened. She wanted to believe him, but fear weighed heavier. When Ella arrived from school, she dropped her backpack with a thud. "Daddy, they were yelling at you on the TV in the cafeteria," she said. Her lip trembled, but her voice held. "Tell them the truth." That decided an hour later. The press room was packed, cameras trained on the podium. Michael stepped into the lights, Ella's small hand clutching his. He looked out over the sea of flashing bulbs and microphones, inhaled once, and spoke. "My name is Michael Grant. I am the CEO of Grant Corp, and I have failed you." The room stilled that he didn't sugarcoat. He explained how his company's greed had raised drug prices beyond what families could bear. How those decisions weren't abstract, they were life and death. His voice wavered when he admitted Liam, the child in his care, was nearly another casualty. "This ends today," Michael said firmly. Effective immediately, Grant Corp will release emergency stock of insulin and related medications free of charge for children in need. We will begin restructuring our pricing model. No parent should have to choose between rent and their child's heartbeat. Ella squeezed his hand tighter. The reporters erupted with questions, but the message was already spreading. Social media exploded with clips of his confession. Parents cheered him, calling him brave. Investors panicked. The stock ticker bled red, billions evaporating in minutes. Upstairs, in a glass-walled conference room, the board watched with grim faces. Kellen leaned forward, his voice smooth as ever. "He's burning this company alive for sentiment. We cannot let him take us with him." By the time Michael returned to his office, his phone was buzzing. Marla, his assistant, read the message aloud, her voice tight. "Emergency board meeting. Tonight." Michael met Kara's eyes across the room. "They're moving against me." Kara hugged Liam closer. "You did the right thing, but the right thing always has a price." From the board's private chamber, Kellen's voice carried over speakerphone. "Cold. Certain. Gentlemen and ladies, I call an emergency vote to remove Michael Grant as CEO." The boardroom had never felt colder. 12 chairs, 12 names etched into the marble table, 12 sets of eyes waiting to see if Michael Grant would fall. The air hummed with tension, the faint clink of cufflinks against glass echoing like a gavel. Kellen stood first, immaculate as ever, his smile razor-thin. "Colleagues," he began smoothly, "we are watching this empire crumble in real time. Scandal splashed across every network. Our stock bleeding value by the second. And why? Because one man, our CEO, lets sentiment outweigh strategy. Compassion is admirable at home. In a boardroom, it's reckless." He let the words sink in before gesturing toward Michael. "You've all seen the headlines. A supposed mistress. A secret child. Public confessions that cost us billions. We cannot trust a man who confuses philanthropy with leadership." Murmurs rippled around the table. Pins tapped. Shoes shifted. Kellen had stacked the deck carefully. Michael rose slowly, his hand resting on the table for balance. "You're right about one thing," he said evenly. "I let compassion guide me. And I would again. Because this company has bled families dry while lining our pockets." He held up a small black device, the missing flash drive. Gasps broke the silence. Kara, seated at the far end, looked stunned. Michael continued, For days, this was missing. Stolen from her bag. Tonight, my daughter found it. Taped under the stem of her music box. Whoever planted it wanted us divided. The room shifted. Eyes narrowed. Michael slotted the drive into the screen system. The monitors flickered, then came alive with documents. Emails, spreadsheets, directives. Price hikes orchestrated from the top. Internal memos that dismissed safety trials as manageable risk. And then Kara's voice, captured in video testimony, played for the room. She described how she tried to sound the alarm, how she was silenced, threatened, discarded. Her baby's fevered cries bled faintly into the recording, making every word sting sharper. Years of fraud, Michael said. Buried. Until now. The silence was thick. Then a voice. We should vote. Cards were placed into the box, one by one. Hands folded. Eyes fixed straight ahead. The count was close. Too close. 6 in favor of removal. The chairman announced, voice dry. 6 against. Gasps. A deadlock .1 seat sat empty, its placard gleaming under the light. Its holder had abstained, refusing to choose. The coup stalled. Michael exhaled, relief and dread tangled. He had survived. For now, Kellen's chair scraped back sharply. He stood, jaw rigid, eyes dark with fury. You think this saves you, he hissed. You won't last 24 hours. He stormed out, his footsteps echoing down the corridor like the ticking of a clock. Michael looked around the table. Kara clutching her child, Ella clutching her paper crane. He knew what Kellen meant. The war had just left the boardroom and entered the streets. By dawn, Michael's building looked less like a home and more like a fortress under siege. Satellite vans lined the street, their dishes pointed skyward. Reporters clustered at the doors, shouting questions, cameras flashing each time the curtains shifted. Inside, Michael's phone buzzed endlessly, emails filled with threats, voicemails thick with anger. Resign, or we ruin you. Blood for profit. Some messages were worse, naming Ella, naming Liam. Kara stood at the window, rocking the baby, fear etched into her face. They won't stop, she whispered. Not until I'm gone. I should just... No. Michael snapped, sharper than he meant. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. That's what they want. If you go, they win. And they'll still come for Ella. Kara's eyes darted to the crib, tears threatening. She didn't argue a tea breakfast. Ella tried to act normal, humming as she buttered toast. Michael kissed the top of her head. Security will drive you to school today. Straight there? No stops. She grinned weakly. Okay, Daddy. He watched from the window as she climbed into the black SUV, flanked by men in suits. For the first time in days, he allowed himself a breath of relief. IT didn't last. An hour later, the school called. Ella hadn't arrived. Michael's heart dropped. He barked orders, his voice hoarse. Track the SUV. Now, his head of security paled. GPS went dark 2 blocks from here. Michael slammed a fist into the wall. Panic ripped through him like fire. Kara gasped, clutching Liam tighter. Then her phone buzzed. A message. No number. Just text. Exchange yourself for the girl. Her face drained of color. It's me they want. Michael snatched the phone, while rising in his throat. This wasn't corporate maneuvering anymore. Kellen had escalated into open warfare. He dialed, demanded answers, but only static filled the line. Another text appeared. One life for another. Choose fast. Michael's mind spun. He pictured Ella's smile at breakfast, the paper crane she folded when she was scared, the way she whispered promises into Liam's crib. He couldn't lose her. Not like this. Michael. Kara's voice broke. If it saves your daughter, I'll go. He grabbed her shoulders, fierce. No. They'll take you and still keep her. That's who we're dealing with. Silence stretched. Then his tablet beeped. A new notification. Live feed link. He clicked without thinking, the screen filled with grainy video. A warehouse. Concrete walls, dripping pipes. In the center, a chair. Ella sat tied to it, her eyes wide but unbroken. A gag muffled her cries. Michael's chest clenched so hard he couldn't breathe. On the screen, a figure stepped briefly into frame, whispering something in Ella's ear before the feed cut to black. Michael stared at the frozen reflection of his daughter's terrified face. The warehouse reeked of oil and rust, its rafters groaning with every gust of night wind. Michael pushed the heavy door open, Kara at his side, Liam bundled tight in her arms. His voice rang out. hard and steady despite the storm in his chest. Let her go, Kellen. Now. Fluorescent lights flickered awake. Ella sat bound to a chair in the center, eyes wet but defiant. Two guards stood close, guns low, waiting for orders. From the shadows, Kellen emerged, immaculate suit, polished shoes gleaming against the filth. Michael, he said smoothly, you brought the missing pieces. How generous. Michael stepped forward, fists clenched. This ends tonight. Kellen's smirk deepened. Oh, it does. You see, the story will be simple. Disgraced CEO kidnaps ex-employee and her child. Tragic. Violent. And when it's done, both whistleblowers vanish. Conveniently, the company survives untarnished. Kara's breath caught. She hugged Liam tighter, then did the only thing she could, raise her voice. Rhythmo's falsified trials. Children died because safety reports were buried. I watched the memos come across my desk, signed by your hand. Kellen. Her voice cracked, but didn't falter. Michael's eyes widened. She wasn't just shouting at him. She was shouting for someone else. Far across town, in a newsroom buzzing with screens, Riva adjusted her headset. Kara's words came through crystal clear. The small mic she'd planted in Kara's jacket days ago was streaming live. Viewers across the city leaned in, jaws tightening as the truth spilled raw into the open. Kellen's eyes narrowed. Turn that off. One of the guards moved toward Kara. Michael lunged, cufflinks already twisted into a jagged shank. He slammed it into the man's forearm, knocking the gun aside. The second guard swung hard. Michael took the hit, teeth rattling, but drove forward anyway. Pain seared through his ribs, but he didn't stop. Daddy. Ella cried, voice muffled, fueled by her voice. Michael tore through the guard, staggering but relentless. Kara dropped low, shielding Liam beneath her body, while Ella, tears streaking her cheeks, seized her chance. She slammed her foot down on the nearest guard's boot, hard. He yelped, loosening his grip. Ella twisted, chair legs scraping, and the rope slipped just enough for her to wriggle free. Kara shouted again, louder this time, her words ricocheting through the rafters and across the live stream. This company poisoned its own patients. They silenced anyone who spoke. And now they want to erase us too. Kellen's composure cracked. Sweat glistened at his hairline. He reached for his phone, barking orders into it. Outside, faint at first, came the sound of sirens. Dozens of them. Growing closer, Michael staggered upright, Ella clinging to his arm. He met Kellen's glare, blood on his lip but fire in his eyes. You're finished. Kellen's expression flickered, rage, then calculation. He snapped his fingers. From the rafters above, a rifle cracked. The bullet ripped the air, echoing like thunder. The warehouse froze in chaos as the sirens wailed louder. The first flashbang rattled the rafters. Sirens wailed outside, red and blue lights slicing through the warehouse windows. Federal agents stormed in, shouts echoing, weapons raised. Chaos shattered into order. Kellen froze, half a step from the side door. Two agents tackled him to the ground, his phone skidding across the concrete. This is illegal. Do you know who I am? He screamed, spittle flying, his polished shoes kicking against the floor. Cameras mounted on the agents' helmets captured every second, broadcasting his fury live. His denials collapsing under the weight of Kara's testimony still streaming to the world. Michael sagged against a support beam. One arm wrapped around Ella. Blood trickled from his lip, his ribs aching with every breath, but he wouldn't let go of her. I've got you, he whispered into her hair. You're safe now. Kara slid to her knees nearby, Liam cradled tight against her chest. Relief broke over her face in waves, her body shaking as if her strength had finally run out. For days she'd been running, hiding, surviving on scraps of hope, and for the first time, she saw a door out. Outside, the live stream spiked. Comments flooding in, they lied. The whistleblower was real. Shut down Grant Corp. The world was watching. And this time the truth had teeth. An agent helped Michael to his feet. Mr. Grant, you're going to need medical attention. Michael shook his head. Later, he raised his voice, steady despite the tremor in his body. For too long, Grant Corp chose profit over lives. I signed papers that let it happen. That ends tonight. We dismantle it, piece by piece. We start with the medicine. His words carried across the cameras, raw and unpolished. Reporters outside repeated them instantly, headlines flashing before the echo had even faded. CEO vows to tear down his own empire. Kara met his eyes. You'd burn everything? He nodded. If it means children like Liam live, yes. Ella tugged his sleeve, her voice small but sure. Daddy, we fix it. Together. Michael pulled her closer, tears stinging. She wasn't just his anchor. She was the reason he'd finally chosen the harder road. The agents dragged Kellen past them, his voice hoarse from shouting. You think this makes you a hero? You'll drown in it, Grant. You'll drown. Cameras caught the wild fury on his face as he was shoved into a waiting vehicle. For a brief moment, silence settled. The kind that felt like ash after fire. Then Kara swayed. Her knees buckled, her arms loosening. Liam gave a startled cry as she nearly collapsed to the floor. Michael caught her by the shoulders just in time. Kara. Her skin was clammy, her breath shallow. She tried to smile, lips pale. He's safe now, she murmured, glancing at her baby. Michael's gut twisted. He'd been so focused on Liam's fever, on Ella's safety, on fighting Kellen, that he hadn't seen Kara burning herself down to keep them alive. Her eyes fluttered closed as agents called for medics. The baby was safe. But Kara, she was fading fast. Michael didn't wait for insurance forms, approvals, or protocols. By the time paramedics loaded Kara into the ambulance, he was already on the phone, pulling every string he had left. A private medical team was waiting when they arrived. Run every test, he ordered, voice iron. Don't ask who's paying. Just save her. Kara drifted in and out of consciousness. Those first nights, her strength sapped from weeks of neglect and sacrifice. Michael stayed at her bedside until Ella tugged his sleeve and whispered, She needs you to fix more than machines, Daddy. She needs hope. From then on, Ella became the hope bearer. Each day after school, she slipped into Kara's hospital room, carrying folded paper cranes in her backpack. She strung them across the four-pole, the window latch, even the lamp by the bed. Every crane is a promise, she told her, that you'll get stronger. Kara would smile faintly, her fingers brushing the delicate wings. One evening, her voice rasped low as she confessed, When I was your age, I wanted to be an engineer. I used to take apart radios, sketch bridges, dream of building something that lasted. But life, she looked away. Life told me women like me weren't supposed to build. Just keep quiet. Michael, standing by the window, turned back sharply. Then let's undo that lie. When you're well, I want you to help me run the foundation. Not as a symbol, as a builder. We'll need engineers of conscience. Kara blinked, startled. You trust me with that? I trust you more than anyone who's ever sat in my boardroom, he said simply. Ella grinned from her chair, swinging her legs. That means you're family now. Daddy says family fixes things together. The words broke something open in Kara's chest. For the first time in years, she let herself believe she belonged. But outside the sterile walls of the hospital, the fight raged on. Michael sat in court, his reputation on trial as much as his company. The prosecutor laid out memos signed with his name, charts of profit margins climbing as drug prices soared. Michael didn't deny it. He leaned into the microphone and admitted, I failed. I put money before people. I let greed masquerade as strategy. I won't defend it. I'll dismantle it. Gasps rippled through the room. His lawyers winced, but he didn't stop. If there is punishment, I'll take it. But let it be clear, the cost of medicine will never again be the cost of a child's life. Reva's pen flew across her notebook. Reporters whispered furiously. The live stream trended worldwide. Millions watching a CEO choose confession over survival. At the end of the session, the judge's gavel came down hard. Court adjourned. Sentencing to be determined. His eyes lingered on Michael. Prison is on the table. The words echoed like a countdown. Michael left the courthouse surrounded by flashing cameras, Ella clutching his hand. Kara was healing. The baby was safe, but his own freedom now dangled by a thread. The city looked different when Michael walked it at Ella's pace. No tinted windows, no black SUVs, no driver shielding them from stares. Just a father and his daughter, hand in hand, weaving through the morning bustle. Ella's backpack bounced against her shoulders, her laughter chasing away the cold bite of winter air. Daddy, she said between skips, I like this better. Just us. Michael smiled faintly. His name was no longer printed above the skyline in polished glass. It wasn't whispered in boardrooms or feared in markets. It was spoken in smaller ways now. Dad, advocate, the man who chose mercy. And for the first time in years, it felt right that at the corner near Ella's school, a busker played violin. Michael paused to drop a bill into the case, Ella grinning as the musician shifted into her favorite song. Simple acts, small, human, grounding. Things he had forgotten while chasing numbers. Across town, Kara stood in front of a room filled with parents, nurses, and young students. Behind her, a banner read, "The Horizon Foundation for Affordable Medicine." She clicked through slides, explaining how funding was clearing patent thickets, how generic medications were reaching shelves faster, cheaper. Her voice was steady now, no longer trembling with fear. She wasn't a ghost hiding in shadows. She was a leader, building something she once dreamed of as a child. When she stepped off stage, reporters thrust microphones forward. One asked, "What does it feel like, standing where the man once stood who silenced you?" Kara only smiled. "It feels like breathing again." At the old auto shop, Vic rolled up a new banner above the garage door. "We fix what's broken." The paint was fresh, the letters bold. He greeted locals with grease-stained hands and a grin that carried weight. Inside, Michael had reopened the community program, where teenagers learned to turn wrenches and, in Ella's words, fix life while they fix cars. The baby, Liam, toddled now, healthy and bright-eyed. He giggled in Ella's arms as she chased him around the shop. Paper cranes dangling from the ceiling like promises kept. Later, in the quiet of home, Michael stood in the kitchen pinning Ella's latest drawing to the fridge. 3 chairs. For stick figures. Him, Ella, Kara, and Liam. The simplicity of it caught his breath. He traced the crayon lines with his thumb and whispered, "No board. Just us." Behind him, the faint melody of the old music box filled the air. Once broken, its song now played whole again. Kara had wound it earlier, smiling as the notes carried through the room like a prayer answered. Michael closed his eyes. For years, he had been a man who measured life in contracts and numbers. Now he measured it in paper cranes, schoolyard walks, and the laughter of children who believed in tomorrow. The world outside still spun with headlines, courtrooms, and markets, but in this small circle of light, he felt something he hadn't in years, not survival, not power, living.